Okay.
Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November the 21st, 2018. This is a meeting of Commissioners Court convening after our special meeting. The meeting is called to order. You got me started. Okay. The meeting is called to order. Second item, review and discuss Justice Center design options from PGAL. Do we have a PGAL representative here today? Commissioner Mallett?
No.
Were we planning on having one?
Well, I was thinking this was going to be pushed to the next regular meeting. I didn't realize it was this week.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't inform them.
All right. Well, we've called us together. We can at least have some discussion amongst us in regards to what's been presented. And this was presented last week. I was absent last week at conference, a judges conference. Can you give me the 3-minute update?
Basically, what we have are a couple of options here with the for the Justice Center, with the courtrooms and then the accompanying district clerk and county clerk offices in there as well to support the court. And then also we have the other option with the other offices we had talked about putting in there. I guess basically what we need to figure out is how we want to go about, because there's basically a price range, and those are basically depending on what type, materials we construct, what type of HVAC we put in there, different. So that's why the ranges are part of. Did you get that?
I don't have that on
I didn't
here.
send you that email though.
No.
Here's the ranges for the different options. It's 7.5 million to 8.7 for the courts and the county clerk and district clerk, and then it's I believe 10 million to 11.7 for the other.
Can you repeat those numbers, please?
7.5 to 8.7, and then 10 million to 11.7.
11.7?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Basically, it appears that we can, for the most part, pay what we have in fund balance for the first option. But with the cost of everything constantly going up, I mean, I guess with what we would like to do is, what I thought we could do is discuss our approach and if we'd want to actually fund part of it through, let's see what it's called. There's a couple of different options for that. Through tax notes, I believe, COs, certificates of obligation. And then there's just, I guess, a general type bond. To actually get this, to pay for the additional, $2 to $3 million.
Whatever we have
$2 to $3 million
in excess of the balance.
to get the building.
Did y'all have any discussion or consensus last week as to what is the preference?
No, we just kind of decided we needed to discuss it as a whole, Commissioners Court.
Open for discussion. Thoughts or comments? I don't know what we decide, what we ultimately determine to spend, but I'm a proponent of the bigger option versus a smaller option.
Because the cost is gonna go nothing but
Not
up
up.
as far as,
And the longer we wait, the more it's going to go up.
And the interest rates are going to continue to climb.
Yes.
So I believe we kind of come as a consensus of which route we want to take, and then we can get the bid, get
Right.
them to start design work. I guess there was also another possibility of, that was discussed about potentially moving adult probation over there as well. You know, that would add an additional, just off the top of, you know, the required space, probably an additional 600 to 700,000 to that as well,
To the bigger option.
to the bigger option.
Yeah.
I want to go back to when we asked the last thing, when PGAL was here and present. We asked them for a design of a plan that would fit the amount of money we had without going into debt. You know, the amount of money that we had when we initially started this was 7-point-something million, and that's what we originally asked them for. And because this originally all started as a justice center, you know, putting all the courts together, putting the necessary departments over there that would function as one. And that's what PGAL was supposed to come back with us, which is plan number with the square foot, 24,176 square feet. We've looked at several plans over the last year, well, almost a year. And we're going back and forth. And of course, I know that prices are changing with each storm. We've seen the price of building material go up. But I also have a concern too about what we can afford. Currently, I guess it's sitting at about $375. Am I saying that right? $375 a square foot.
At the top end, I believe. I
At the
think the
top
bottom
end.
end, you're anywhere from 310 to 320, I believe.
Is that the best we can do?
I believe so.
Okay. I have a
Because it includes all the ground, you know, work, the dirt work,
So this is
'cause it's-
turnkey,
yes.
parking lot, everything but furniture. Okay.
Though some of the built-in, there'll be some built-in furniture. I think that's a lot of the expense for the courtrooms. Is from the
The courtrooms.
The built-in
Like
benches
this.
and yes.
But that, yet still, we have to purchase chairs and furniture and all of that. So, my concern is the, going with the larger plan. I still have a concern over that, because when we started this out, like I said, it would start off as a justice center, and then we were talking about probation, adult probation over there for a few years, and then them coming back to Anderson. We talked about that. And maybe that works for them in Navasota. I can't speak to that. But my concern is to going into more debt. I know we talked about the instruments that would, how we would get public input on this. I think this is a public building, this is public money, and I have a concern that I receive their input. Not so much with what we have on hand, because we've been talking about this now for a couple of years, but when we start going bigger and bigger, and we're starting to hear this is still not big enough for my department, or this isn't correct, and I've always had a concern as far as PGAL when it comes down to needs assessments, and then we end up with a plan that we're still hearing from departments that say, hey, they didn't take in consideration, I have these many windows, I have no storage. So this plan that's 3,100 square feet, is that large enough if you're going to talk about bringing all the departments over? Because I'm not hearing that it is. I'm not hearing that from department heads that they have, if we're building something that they've already outgrown, or they don't see that they have enough room, why would we do that? I mean, I have a concern about going into debt to bring probation back over to this building that we're steady putting money in and steady repairing, and then taking those same people and moving them then over to this building over here. And then then we've got to redo this building for adult probation. That's where y'all currently saying adult probation is coming over here. Did I hear that?
I didn't say that. So,
Okay, well, this is a good time
I
to
was saying, talk
discuss.
about potentially putting it in this building, that's what I was
Okay.
talking about. We
But
talked
currently,
about-
we don't even have them in the building, and then we're at 3,100 square feet, 31,000.
You talking about the planned building or this physical building?
Potentially for the planned building.
Okay.
I mean, either, one way or the other, we're gonna have to, pay for renovations if we
Right.
did anything here. So
Okay.
that money would have to be, funded also. We'd have to go into debt for that as well.
Okay. Because the last thing I heard, that adult probation was coming to this particular building.
But we didn't, I mean, it was still up in the air which way what we were gonna do.
Yes, yes. Well, like I said, my concern, if the building is good enough for adult probation to come over here, I'm almost of the opinion to pay for what we can get for now, and then gauge how that goes before we go into debt, not knowing what exactly we need. It still sounds like we don't know what we're.
Well, this is, I mean, there's some little tweaking with this that without extreme changes to the layout.
An additional 8,000 square feet, just to round it off, because it's 7,984 square feet. We're talking another $3 million to enlarge it,
To enlarge,
to pick the larger plan over the smaller plan.
yes.
And then
Anywhere
you're
from,
saying
anywhere
tweaking,
from 2.5 to $3 million.
how much more tweaking are we gonna, we've
It
looked
wouldn't be, it'd be,
at the plan. I'm confused
some of the
on
feedback I've
plan.
gotten are additional exits for, I guess, for money, transfers to the bank, an additional space, I believe, for the tax assessor. But I think a lot of that can still be done within within a few. I mean, we're not talking major changes of adding 4,000 square foot to the building for that.
Where's the 4 coming from? When you say 4,000?
Well, you're just saying we're gonna make a big extreme change to the layout of the property. I don't see, I mean, of the building, I don't see it as being a large.
You don't see it being a 4,000 foot expansion?
No. An additional I mean, yes, there may be some slight changes. It may change from 31,170 to 31,240. I mean, to get everybody's needs in there.
Okay. So in terms of financing, we were talking, where's the paperwork? Because that's one thing we haven't really talked, if you're talking going larger, let's delve into that. I think that note is gonna be 600 and something thousand, approximately. Okay.
Yeah, it would be I guess the most ideal form would be a tax note, which is a maximum of a 7-year note.
So you're saying a tax note which finances up to 7 years. Now, is that correct? We do have a guest here, Judge.
Yeah, so he would help us out with the financial part of it for sure.
Good morning. You want to come up to the podium? That way we get you on the mic. And we know you, but the observation world might not know you, so if you do identify yourself, please.
Sure. My name's Ben Rosenberg with U.S. Capital Advisors. I prepared some information for you last week based on the auditor's request to fund approximately $4 million and present options on instruments and duration. So those instruments vary in duration. A tax note can go up to 7 years. A certificate of obligation can go up to, I think, 40 years statutorily. And so based on the current values of the county and borrowing $4 million, the tax note would cost approximately, at today's interest rates, approximately $640,000 a year, and that equates to about 2.5 cents on the tax rate. Everything held constant. I know Mary's looking at the end of the fiscal year at adding more money into the fund balance, so maybe the borrowing would be less. I would propose borrowing money until you know exactly what the cost is. And the ideal situation is you would sell the bonds at the same meeting you award the actual construction bids. Now that doesn't always happen. In an ideal world, you only borrow what you need to borrow for the shortest duration that you could afford to make the payments. So in the scenario that I ran last time, that's the tax notes for 7 years, $4 million at the current values and rates, about $640,000 a year, or 2.5 cents in the tax rate.
And certificates are, you're explaining the tax notes.
Tax notes.
Okay, could you explain?
A certificate of obligation, it allows you to go longer than the 7-year duration. I'd ran 10 and 12 years, or 10 and 15-year options. You could do 12 years, I mean, it's not locked into 10 or 15, it was just had to pick some options.
Choices.
And there you're just sort of seeing the payment. The interest rate is a little bit higher because you're going longer. And a 10-year option would be about $474,000 a year, or 1.8 cents on the tax rate. 15 years would be $340,000 a year at 1.3 cents on the tax rate. The Constitution requires.
Can you repeat those numbers? I'm sorry. 10-year would be what?
474.
10-year option is about $475,000 a year at 0.18 cents on the tax rate.
Okay, and the
475,000. So
and the 15 year is
15
3.
is about 348 per year, or 1.3 cents on the tax rate. The requirements for court meetings on a tax note: one court meeting can approve the sale of a tax note. For a certificate of obligation, you would actually issue a notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation. You're required then to put a notice in the paper 2 consecutive weeks, paper of local circulation, and then wait 30 days, a 30-day wait period, before you could actually sell the certificates of obligation. That period was allowed to give an option to a general obligation bond that requires a vote. So this would allow a 30-day period for citizens to petition and request a vote. That would take 5% of the registered voters to sign a petition and to petition the issue of the COs, and that could require a vote. So those are
And when you say require a vote, that's going,
to the general public,
general public having the precincts open.
May and November.
Right.
Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
Sure.
And the tax note would go in as an INS tax, but we could still lower the M&O tax to maintain our same tax rate and still make the payments. And
So it's a pledge of
it's just a pledge. It's a
pledge
pledge
of
for
property
obligation
taxes,
for
that
that.
you would dedicate an INS portion of your tax rate to cover the debt payment, and that portion of the tax rate is not subject to rollback. You still have overall authority on what your overall tax rate is, setting the M&O side. INS would be dedicated for as long as that debt is outstanding. And that would vary every year based on the values. So that could go down, that percentage could go down if your values go up. And the information I provided last week also, if you look at your history, doesn't mean it's gonna continue. over the last multiple years, your values have consistently gone up. So that would mean that potentially that INS rate could go down every year if your rates continue to go up.
Judge, can I make a comment?
Sure.
So this has been a long process over many years. This is not the first time that this building discussion has come up in Grimes County. This time we've been talking about this for over a year roughly. And correct me if I'm wrong on anything I say by anybody, but I think we have, the last figure that I was aware of was $8.7 million set aside for expenditure on a new facility. Is that correct? Is that right?
Close to that
I think
number.
that was the latest, yeah.
Okay, so roughly. And so generally speaking, it's my belief that if we're gonna spend any more than what we currently had set aside, that we need to get that authorized by the taxpayer. Because we're taking a loan out in their name. And we shouldn't be scared to ask them. They need to be consulted if we're gonna go from being debt-free to indebtedness of millions of dollars. And I've heard timeliness. I've already referenced, we've been having this discussion for years. So communicating what we're gonna do to the taxpayers, if it takes just a little while longer, would be worth the effort. And I'll tell you that the majority of people that I talk to about this specific issue, they don't know about it, or they don't know why it's needed. So I've been working in Grimes County since I was 30 years old. And I've worked in and out of these county facilities the entire time. And I've watched the facilities be band-aided to the point that they are now. And so whenever people ask, why do you need it? I'll just give you a few examples off the top of my head. The county clerk has to maintain their records in 2 locations. They're out of space in both of them. The district clerk has the same problem generally. We operate 5 to 6 courts in one courtroom, and this room we're sitting in right now. And I've seen a picture where a judge of a specific court, and I can't recall which court it
It
is,
was the AG court.
was holding court and using the kitchen counter of what was formerly called the American Legion Hall as the bench. Can it be done? Yes. Is that the way we want to conduct our business? Is that what the taxpayers expect? I don't think so. I was talking with somebody from the DA's office. They're out of space. If we're planning on expanding the courtroom facilities, they're going to need to be given an adequate space to address the court's needs. In general, these are just some off the top of my head observations. Every office that I'm aware of is out of space in this county. And I keep hearing the word growth. And I don't know what that means as far as preparation wise, but I can tell you right now, if you walk around the county facilities, that there is very little room for growth. Whether that means the county's growing or the office is growing, they don't have anywhere to grow to. So I can speak specifically about one department because I came from it, and that's the probation department. And I will tell you, as a point of fact that the building was so deteriorated that they had to move an entire department out of the county facility and lease another facility that we now have to pay $35,000 roughly a year for. One of the concerns that has been expressed to me is that people have no idea, and I'm talking the general people. I understand the people in this room know very well where to go to get their business done in the county facilities. But the average people out on the street don't. They know to come here to get their license tags, but they don't know which building to go to get other documentation from. And that's a great concern. To this day, today, we are piecemealing the very building that we're sitting in right now, trying to get the office space and the facilities that we need to provide better services to the taxpayers. You know, going forward in this matter, I see the need for facilities. And to identify those needs, one only has to look to the strategic plan, which is pretty often referenced in this, at least in this Commissioner's Court. But there's some observations whenever you view the strategic plan. There were only 54 delegates at 5 meetings in October of 26 that came up with the direction for this county to go. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's approximately 16,000 voters and 27,000 residents that live in Grimes County. New facilities was ranked number 11 on the strategic plan, but it was only given a 45% priority rating. So it was identified highly as an area of need, but I think the general consensus, at least speculation, was the same issue that we're having today, is what does that mean and how are we going to pay for it? So, the highest priority rating item, it's one of the highest priority rating item on the strategic plan, but it has the lowest time frame, which means the longest time frame proposed, in that it's going to take longer than 5 years to complete that item. So this brings me back to the original question of, I think, one of the main obstacles that we have here, especially after talking to people, has been a communication issue. And if you revert back or you review or reference the strategic plan, the plan indicates that the county was preparing a PowerPoint with voiceover explaining all the problems with current facilities. This video will be posted to the website to inform the public the need for improved facilities. Now, unless somebody in here has seen that, I searched the website and I couldn't find any indication that that's ever been on there or it's ever been done. It also recommended that Grimes County utilize the updated county website as a means of sharing progress and plans for this initiative, meeting the facilities. I looked on there, couldn't find it. So when I talk to people about this, and in my mind it's a very, very important issue for many reasons, and I keep getting the answers or the responses or communication that they don't know about what's going on and they don't even know why it's needed, then we hadn't done our homework up front. Because if they knew, my guess is that most of them, while they may not necessarily like it, they would understand the need for it and be more willing to support the idea. So I think we need to take a step back, and I think we need to do that, and I think we need to let the taxpayer guide us on the way that they want to see the county. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna have exactly what the taxpayers want us to have. And I don't think we need to be scared at all to tell them what we need and ask permission to do it. That's my 2 cents.
As part of the developer of the strategic plan, I think the strategic plan was developed by the citizens of Grimes County. We were elected by the people in our precincts to do what we need to do. If we keep putting this off, 5, 6 years from now, we're gonna be in the same position we were 8 years ago when this was trying to be done. It's time we move forward with this, I think. Make a decision. We were elected by the people. In this last election, there were a large number of people that voted, and I think they have the confidence in us to move forward. And that's my opinion on it. If we keep putting it off, we won't get it done.
How are we gonna pay for it?
That's what we need to decide.
Well, I can tell you that my position is that we've got 8.7 million roughly in the bank, and anything over that, we need to consult the taxpayers, and I think at least if I tried to analyze a little bit and put it out there that I think what we're looking at may not be what we need. I mean, if we move the court system, which is in my mind a top priority to take care of, we're still sitting where we were sitting before. We just moved one thing.
Part of the problem with the space that we need, a couple of issues on that. A lot of this stuff should have been digitized and be on computer systems, and it hasn't been done. The other issue is, as we grow in the county, we're gonna need to build satellite, so we're not gonna need all that room here in Anderson per se. Look at Montgomery County, Brazos County, and the counties around us. You have to have satellites, for instance, for the tax office and different things that we do in the county. So we also need, and I know that Mary Ann and I have talked about possibly looking at, in the future, putting some satellite offices out in the southeast corner of the county, because that's where the growth is gonna be. And the more planning that we do on this, you know, you're not gonna need all that space in the courthouse here. And that's something that we need to look at, is the technology that we have that can eliminate some of this storage space.
Well, I mean, if we're building for growth, then it's what we're even, and we're talking about building satellite offices, is what we're building now. I mean, is that the right direction to go? If growth is projected in another part of the county, then why are we building here?
Because it's needed here right now.
Yeah, but you're telling me that all these other departments are gonna need satellite offices elsewhere to handle their business.
In the future, not now, in the future.
And that's what I wanna build for.
And going back to the strategic plan, many of the issues that were listed below where this one is listed have been completed. Many expensive ones that have been done have been completed. So we need to move forward with the next 10 to 20 on the list, I think.
Well, I'm of the same mind that Commissioner Cox, and he expressed it well, about educating our public on our needs. You know, I don't disagree that we don't have needs or growth, you know, where we are currently are. People are stuffed in the hallways now, and and we still have issues with other problems as far as our records being decaying, and we still have to maintain those because they're greatly important to this community. So we still have the issue of storage, and the problem I see is when we were looking at the Justice Center as a justice center and making sure those departments had what they needed, we can afford to build that currently. It's when we started trying to take everybody over there that we really need to look at a little bit more in depth. Now, you just threw another thing out there, satellite offices. You know, do we know where we're going? You know, maybe we need to do an internal strategic plan as to where we're going if you're talking satellite offices. Meanwhile, I would be of the opinion to move forward with the plan that has what we need, what we can afford, tweak it to the best of our ability, and then we're still able, if we're still able, like I'm hearing everybody say, this is how we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it by squeezing all we can out of the current budget that we have and setting aside money to pay this note. Why not do that and pay cash again? Rather than go into debt that the public is not aware of, perhaps all of them, that we're going into. And knowing exactly what we're building when we start building beside this building, because if you're saying you currently don't have enough space in what this 3,100 square feet, we went from 30, I think 33, now we're down to 31. And we're talking 11.7 million at the quality finish. That number just keeps changing. Like I said, I've looked at so many plans, I'm confused as to what plan I'm looking at. But I do know that the one we asked for when PGAL was last here was just a justice center with 3 courtrooms and the supporting staff that needed to move over with them. And, you know, that's where I am. If you want to know my opinion of what I'm thinking, I just think we need to build what we need for right now until we know exactly where we're going. We do know when we looked at this plan, the DA has really thoroughly looked at their departments. The other departments, the court needs are here. We cut back on a district courtroom in order to shrink this building down to what we could pay cash for. We cut out one district court, and in order to do that, but yet when you go back over to,
Well, it turned out that we really didn't need 2 physical district courtrooms, is what's the need for that.
okay, well, when you go back over to the other plan, I was gonna say, but you defeated my purpose in saying that. I was gonna say, we don't even have that additional courtroom in here anymore. So, currently, from what you're saying, it meets the district court's needs. The supporting staff is there, and it meets what we have available to fund. I'm still concerned that it's not exactly turnkey. I don't know what 7.5 million, what kind of finishes those are to you?
I mean, I don't know exactly what finishes.
Well, I think the email that
I
was,
believe part of it's the HVAC too, but I think we probably need to do similar to what we have here, which is a little bit more expensive. I think it's the boilers and chillers versus, rooftop package units, so.
Is this a metal building? Is this a brick building?
I believe it is a metal building with facade on it.
That's the 7.5. And what is the difference between the 7.5 and 8.7 on exterior? Let's just explore the
That's probably
exterior.
more, yeah, I mean, it's
still a metal
partly with the
building?
I believe it's probably still a metal building, but, it's a little bit of, nicer, probably facade, or, I'm pretty sure we would probably sit somewhere in the middle of that. That's probably where we would be.
I think there are some questions that PGAL needs to answer that maybe you can't answer on these quality finishes. What makes it different? What's the difference between
7.5 and 8.7.
yeah, or 375,000 $375 a square foot versus $300 a square foot.
Well, the email that was attached to those specific drawings says and referencing the price, the variations would depend on the quality of finishes and the construction type. And basically, that boils down to us. What type of finishes do we want to put in the building? I mean, it's like,
And a lot of it can be done through the plans and through the bid and have had alternates versus which facade for each one, and then you come up with a price we can pick.
Now, just to be clear, did I hear you say this is the parking lot, this is everything? Is this Road and Bridge contributing the parking lot, or are they doing the parking lot?
No, I think the estimate's based on a contractor, but some of the initial dirt work, I mean, if Road and Bridge could knock some of that off, that might be able to reduce, because we need to it's a pretty good sized hill, I think, in that area, so it needs to be flattened out a little bit.
And we've consulted with Road and Bridge?
No. I think that was just a suggestion from PGAL, that we could probably knock out some of that dirt work if the county could do
So
so.
does this plan include if Road and Bridge could not do their road work? Does
Yes,
this amount of
this
money?
is turnkey for the contractor to build it.
well, I mean, doing any type of self-construction in this project, I don't necessarily know that I'm comfortable with, because if Road and Bridge does the work, while they're certainly competent enough to do that
But we don't want
very
to take away
thing.
from maintenance and other duties that's happening to you either.
Well, I mean, if there's a problem with the building, whose fault is it gonna be?
Well, that's just basically dirt work. It won't be anything that would come down to what's going on with the building. It's just strictly initial dirt work. That's what he suggested doing.
I'd like to ask the auditors, and I know we've talked about the possibility at the end of the year having around $9 million. Is that a real possibility, or is that pie in the sky?
No, it's a possibility. As of right now, for fiscal year 18, the net income is roughly $2 million.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Roughly net income from fiscal year 2018 is
Yeah.
$2 million. That includes some restricted,
Okay.
but mostly unrestricted fund balance.
Is it fair to say that if we said, okay, we've got $9 million in the bank to work with, that would be a relatively safe number for us to work with?
I would say so, yes.
Okay, so if we have, let me just talk out loud for a minute here. If we had $9 million, then we can pay for the law center plan, okay? If we have $9 million and we go with the second plan, the larger plan, then that says we need to borrow about 2.7 million versus 4 million. That way we could get this stack of business offices in the new facility, better parking, not having to worry about Band-Aid and all those kinds of things. And I'm kind of new to the job, but getting seasoned fairly quickly. I don't see that 2.7 million or even 3 million is a very, very big load for us to carry, or to try to figure out how to put it into our budget system. And I'll just go back to my private life. I bought a home, I bought some land, and I couldn't pay cash for it, so I did the right thing for me, and I bought what I felt like I could afford and financed what I felt like I needed to, and been blessed to have work that I was able to pay it off. So as a court and as an individual on the court, I don't see that we're restricted to saying, we only have 9 million, that's all we're gonna spend. I think that's a good philosophy to have, but I will also say that when the courthouse that we currently occupy was built, or started to be built in 1893 and moved in 1894, that court had to have some vision of a structure, because I wasn't here, but if you would look down Main Street of Anderson, Texas, I don't think the supporting businesses and the infrastructure matched that kind of a courthouse. And I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying build a Taj Mahal that people are going to come looking at the year 2100 say, wow, did that court have a vision to build something like that? I'm suggesting that the court has to have a vision to build something that's going to take care of our need, not just today, but to take care of our need 10, 15, and if we don't put something together that's gonna last this county for the next 25 years, then shame on us.
But that's just some of the problem I'm hearing is the need that this building that we're looking at, I'm almost hearing some of them say it's too small already. I didn't get as many windows as I need that I'm currently working with. I don't have the storage space that I need. You talked about Band-Aids and fixes. If you move adult probation into this building, then you've got to fix this building and retrofit it to adult probation needs. You're still going to have your Band-Aids, because I don't think any of the buildings, except for maybe district attorney, is going away. So you're still going to have your maintenance needs and your Band-Aid needs and your renovation needs. So those don't just go away because we're doing a new building. Maybe if everybody was going to the building, but everybody's not going. This doesn't include Road and Bridge. It doesn't include various departments like your departments that are over in the elections office and the courthouse. We talked about the county clerk's office becoming the historical commission's office or storage. We still have other buildings that we still have that we're going to be maintaining. So those needs are not going to just go away. You know, we still have to maintain those.
I never said that or suggested it, but some of the maintenance that we're doing will go away because we're not going to need all of those buildings as you're mentioning. I don't believe. Road and Bridge, we made an acquisition of property and facility where there's the talk of we could possibly move the offices to that house. We know we're going to build a new barn there, and ultimately we could do away with that building that Road and Bridge and the DA are in because it literally falling down around us. So,
Well, I
as
hadn't
far
heard
as-
that plan. I thought we were building a new barn to support the south end of the county, not moving Road and Bridge to the south end of the county.
Well, that's just an idea, Commissioner. It's not a plan.
But what I'm saying
It's just
is-
an idea to be considered,
We're talking about a lot of ideas.
okay?
Do we really know where we're going?
Well, I don't think this court's made a decision of knowing where we're going because we can't decide, do we want this or do we want this?
Well, what I'm saying is I'm steady hearing things being thrown out there, you know, satellite offices, Road and Bridge is moving to the south. So,
Well, I don't think satellite offices are a part of this discussion because I think the satellite offices is a discussion for 3 to 5, if you're gonna put a permanent facility, it's 3 to 5 years. If you're talking a temporary facility, and I had a conversation this morning with the tax assessor collector, you know, if she could be accommodated in already available spaces in communities where she could go out there for a day or a half day to provide service, but I don't think that needs to be a real part of this discussion at the time. Judge McLean, you had your hand up.
Y'all started hitting on what I was curious about is considerations of depending on what you move where, how it lessens financial burdens. In other words, we talked about probation. If you move probation, whether you move them here or somewhere else, you're cutting $35,000 a year out of your budget that can go towards interest payments. Other reductions of costs that are currently, and I don't know those numbers, they may not be significant at all. But depending on what you move over to the other building, you're freeing up space and probably freeing up maintenance costs on some of these buildings, but it's not, I don't know if it's significant or not, but if you are paying rent in Navasota, that's $35,000 that you're not spending now. I kind of like the idea of them being in Navasota, but I don't know how they could feel about it. I think just from a functioning perspective, they tend to get better report rates with the buildings being in Navasota because that's where most of the population is. But from a financial perspective, if you do bring them back here, you're no longer paying that rent. And assuming that rent's going to stay the same for the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years. Or are we gonna continue to rent for 5, 6, 7, 10 years and spend $3.5 million in rent that we get nothing for? You know, we're not talking about next year, we're talking about the next 6, 7, 10 years as far as, you know, the amount of money we're gonna finance, if we finance any, and how it's gonna be spent, not just what we're gonna spend next year. It's a whole lot longer plan than that.
Concur.
I know these buildings, I was talking to Al yesterday about the DA's office, the old DA's office, and it's actually in a lot worse shape than I thought it was. So there's some.
That's because you didn't take care of it while you were over there.
I get mad, throw fits and break things. Now I'm a kinder, gentler person.
Well,
I've sat through a couple of these meetings and I've heard this several times, and I'm gonna throw this out there because I'm the one that does maintenance on all these buildings in the greater courthouse complex. I've heard several times that maintenance costs will go down. That is a fallacy. As your materials on your new building keep going up, it's the same thing here. Our maintenance, as the buildings grow older, they just keep going up in maintenance costs. So maintenance, when I hear people say maintenance costs are gonna go down, that isn't true. You're gonna have maintenance over there, you have warranty work. Warranty work is some of the biggest pain in the butt ever in a maintenance side of the house. And you'll still have maintenance costs here no matter what. And I just don't want people to be thinking that maintenance costs will go down, because that is not true.
Understood, but what I was alluding to is that if you did move the DA's office, if you did move Road and Bridge, we have no plans of moving anybody, anything else in those businesses. They could be raised or the properties could be sold, get on the tax rolls, generate income from the county. And it cuts out that maintenance. That's what I'm talking about.
But you just shifted, Judge.
I understand.
You
You're
take
still gonna
that-
have maintenance in the new building.
That's right. So what you do, so they don't go down, they just shift.
Understood.
You know, and that's my point. I wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna go, oh, well, we got a new building and maintenance,
Yeah.
you know.
No,
'cause
I'm
we
talking
still
about
have-
the old ones. If we don't
Yes,
use
sir.
them and they're non-existent, there's no
Yes.
maintenance.
Yes.
Commissioner Mallett?
I think, in order to not delay, I believe everyone on Commissioners Court agrees with the courts, with the first option of building courts and with the supporting staff over there for now. What I can do, you know, not to delay anything going forward with as the Commissioner Court kind of decides and gets with the public and really figures out which direction we want to go as far as the other offices, I can have PGAL go with the design, actually have it designed for, with that first option, and have an alternate to add the other buildings. So by the time we get around to having our idea of what's gonna happen, you know, we can just reject the bid for if it's too high or whatever we wanna do with the other ones, but actually have the courts being built. So we're not really delaying this by getting input.
Isn't that what you have though? I mean,
Yeah, that's basically what.
Yeah, but I mean, they'll actually have design drawings started
oh, okay.
that will bid for the additional
Okay.
buildings, but it'll be an alternate, which you bid this one, and then you can also bid the alternate to add those as well.
Gotcha.
So we can accept part of it, all of it, by the time it's, you know, within the next, 6 to 8, 9 months. So we can actually get some input from the citizens, and which route we want to go if we do decide to finance that other part. That way we're not stopping, the progress of getting, because we're out of room for courts right now, so we need those right now.
Cox, Commissioner Walker, are y'all in favor of, if we did this option, the 21,000 or something similar to that, and it was a turnkey cash basis, are you in agreement that the court has the authority to make that decision based on the input from the strategic plan? Or are you of the opinion that that needs to go back before the voters, the citizens?
As far as spending money that we have on hand?
Yeah, if we have the 9 million and we said, okay, we're gonna do this plan, and we're gonna do it, and the bid comes in at 9 million, are you of the opinion we're good to move forward?
Yes, but I don't necessarily know that we're gonna have $9 million in the bank. Is that a hard figure?
We should have 9 million in the bank for this, yes, sir.
The operative word is should.
Well, just because we should have 9 million, I don't want
It's gonna
to.
happen. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
That figure, we've already removed six months operating out, which is
Right.
roughly 10 to 11 million dollars. That moved aside. It's not including that. There's should be at least 9 million. And the reason I say should is only because it's the $2 million that's rolling into fund balance this right now. And it's still a rough estimate. It's a little over 2 million, but it shouldn't be less than 2 million.
Well, my point was, just because we might have 9 million, that doesn't mean I want to tell
Have to
PGAL we're going to have 9 million to build with.
Well, I mean, this is the estimate right now, 7.5 to whatever. I mean, it's contractors that, when the bid goes out, is what the price is gonna be. I mean, they're using estimates.
This is PGAL's estimate.
Yes.
So are we gonna set aside any of that money for remodeling this facility if we're gonna keep people in it to better suit our needs here? Well, I mean, what's the plan for all of it?
That's what we can discuss, but I mean, if we wait 6 months to figure out what our plan is, that puts this back, and then the costs just keep going up. I would just, like to give PGAL the opportunity to come in and, start on a design. And then we can just evaluate which, we can put in the different facades as the bidding as well. We can put in different, the whole part of
B
it.
and C.
All of it can be, and then we can come up and say, we need $1 million to renovate. So we've got 8 million to spend, so we have to pick a bid that fits within our parameters there. And this number comes with a contingency as well. Their bid comes with a contingency. So, I mean, we could come in under that. Most likely not, but.
But I guess then point two, based on at least what you said, Commissioner Cox, that if we spent more than the money that we had available, it would be, your opinion, we should take that to the voters.
I believe so.
Okay.
I mean, I believe that the budget has been prepared in previous years with the indication that money was being set aside for the project. I think if we're gonna go above the money that has already been approved for that project, then we need to take it out
Okay.
to the taxpayers. And, I still think there needs to be some PR work done on this. I still think that there's a lot of people
Sure.
that don't appreciate, the
need.
situation. And I mean, we're gonna build this now, but that still doesn't alleviate all the concerns from a maintenance standpoint and from a housing standpoint of other offices that are vital to county operation and taxpayer services. I mean, there's still a need for that discussion.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know where to go with that, other than to say we've got 8.7 million in the bank right now, and it seems as though there is a desire to go ahead and move forward with this judicial scheme, as I'm calling it, which is perfectly okay and certainly needed. But there's gonna be other considerations that we have to take into account in the future, and we're not, we've got other issues in the county that we need to address that we need to contribute a significant amount of money for those as well.
I like your suggestion, giving PGAL the ability to break this down to us on facade, on the variations that they talk about, and the quality of work and the construction type, using this specific plan of just the Justice Center and what we can afford right now.
Well, and I figured that we could, as we talk about it and we decide to go to, when the voters want to go ahead and build the building, we can have them go ahead and design that as well. So we're not really wasting any time to, and it should help with the cost versus, okay, we build that and then we get the vote, then we go redesign again and then build again. You just, you know, it's even more money. But, you know, they're contracted to build that whole, PGAL is, for that whole building. So we can have them design the whole building, but we don't have to necessarily build
With
the whole
options.
building. Yes.
Do you have any idea how long PGAL would take for doing something like that?
I think
know
the
we're in the
time frame is
holiday
around,
seasons,
yeah,
but I
I
don't
think the
know if
time frame
there's-
is around 6 to 8 months, I believe. Probably 6. I think maybe it was like 9 months, but that included all this preliminary stuff, so it was probably about 6 months.
To build this, is that what we're
No,
talking
to
about?
come up with the design.
Oh, come up with design.
So we can figure out if we needed to,
So it takes
how,
6 to 8
approach we
months
wanted
for
to
them to
go,
come up
whether
with a
it's, if we
design.
want to ask for a, general obligation bond, or if that's what you're likely to do, to see if they want to pay for that, or just get
To pay
input from
for
the citizens.
stuff above what we've already got budgeted, I mean, I think that's only fair.
Or just hold public hearings and just get feedback from the citizens and see, or actually go to the vote. I mean, because that's gonna take, depending on, 'cause it has to be
5 to
either
12
voted
months.
on in May, or it has to be voted on in November.
Right.
November.
So we have to get the ball rolling somewhere on if we wanted to go that route and see if they wanted to, what their feelings were, if that's a vote, or,
If we can't figure it out by May, shame on us. I mean, as long as we've been talking about it.
I mean, the election has to be called 78 days before the election date, so we've got plenty of time to do that. We don't necessarily, if we're gonna move forward and consider a little more serious, the plan of 24-176 is what I'm calling it, then we have time to talk and discuss.
and they can start
Options.
designing it right now with all the needs possible, and I can have them even add adult probation as a secondary alternate, you know, just, and there will be all kind of options, and we can, when we actually, that way it gives us time to figure out what we want to do, and we've got the options there to pick and choose.
I think that sounds like a good plan.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I just have a question. Have y'all posted those for the community to see? Like, I mean, I know I bring up the city, but the city had theirs posted for people to come look at and see what was happening, and then they
We could probably at
They'll
least put them
come
online
talk.
probably and show what we're
maybe
trying
put
to
it in
do.
the library, and it'll be there from this day to this day, and if you have comments, call your commissioner. Or
Yeah, we can add that too, for the information, try to inform everybody for that. That'd be part of what we can do.
I called the district clerk.
Yeah, I think, you know, at a very minimum, do what the strategic plan listed as recommendations. And then we can piggyback off that however we wish, but I certainly think it needs to be out
To the pub-
for the public to see.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I know the strategic plan said better facilities, and I'm assuming that meant all of the county, not just the courts. Am I right? Am I wrong? I think we owe the public a nice building that we can all conduct business in and have one place to go to. The county clerk's office, you know, we do a lot of business, and we have to send people across the street, down the hall, you know, down the street. And if we move Road and Bridge, then we have to figure out where we're gonna put all of our books that are over there in that building as well. But when you have court, you have to send the jurors to the treasurers to get paid, which means they'd have to drive all the way from that new building back over here. Just a thought. And the county clerk's office has to make cash.
But if you get all those records digitized, then those books have to go
Well, they
with you?
still, the books don't go away just because you digitize.
I understand, but you could also build $150 square foot facility that's climate controlled, that you wouldn't have to take a space in a $300 square
Right.
foot facility.
Oh, that's true.
Same thing with the district.
Right.
After you build a $10 million building, that the public's not gonna wanna hear you building something else.
Well, I
see what you're
appreciate,
saying.
To me, they should all be in one space.
If we're gonna build, have everything.
If you're gonna build it, you might as well build it, build what you need now and not have to build half of what you need and then have to figure out what you do later.
well, but
I don't have any problem with that. All I'm saying is that we got $8.7 million that we've committed to spend on this project. Anything above and beyond that, in my opinion, that's where we need to ask, and we shouldn't be scared to ask.
I agree, if we're gonna borrow money, we should ask the
If
public.
we
I
need
agree
it,
with
if we can
that.
justify why we need it,
Right, but I don't think we're asking for a lot of money, it's not like we're asking for another 10 million.
no.
And I think it's money well spent.
Commissioner Mallett, will you summarize for us what your plan is when we
Plan is to
adjourn
get
this
with
meeting?
with PGAL, to go ahead with the, design, and separate out the court section with the accompanying, departments, and then add, the other one as an alternate. And also add.
Add adult probation.
And also add adult probation as a secondary alternate. That way we have all the options.
Commissioner Cox, since
Yes, sir.
that's your history, adult probation being a part of the court system building, is that more of a need than a want?
they need to be in closer proximity to the, I mean, they deal intimately with all the county offices and more specifically the courts and the clerks, but.
So why don't you see what they can do about putting adult probation in this plan, even if this plan goes up to
Well, as an
25?
alternate, yeah, as an
Yeah.
alternate for, yeah, it'll be a second alternate, but and we'll get with adult probation.
But I
and find out
think
the best place
if we're gonna be showing the public, I think we ought to show the public a minimum need
Yeah.
and then a more desirable. But if adult probation, Judge McLean, do you have an opinion on that?
There's two ways to look at adult probation. Philip is right.
Just give me one.
Well, I mean, they need to be close by, 'cause they gotta be in the courtrooms, and hopefully, I mean, in the very near future, we're talking about in the courtroom virtually every day. So commuting creates issues. I think there's an advantage to being able to have people in Minnesota, but I don't know if that's offset by the need to have probation close by,
Okay.
the other offices. So, yeah, I think that's something probation needs to, kind of express their opinion on.
Commissioner Mallett, I think adult probation ought to be a part of this plan some way. Because I think that would be our minimum plan.
Okay.
And
You-
then a preferred plan.
For what
But
it's
you
worth,
said
I
you were
will
gonna do
tell
it
you,
as an
most
option,
jurisdictions I
right?
know keep
Yeah.
adult probation separate from the main courthouse.
That's
Sir?
it.
That's just been how it ends up, or if that's done intentionally. I know there's sometimes concerns about probationers who are convicted criminals going in and out of the courthouse constantly in a steady flow, where you're also holding court and having regular public business. I know Brazos County's adult probation is separated from the courthouse, Walker County's is separated from the courthouse. Most places, it's a separate facility. Just a thought, again, that's something you might want to address with probation themselves.
Okay.
And because of their needs also, they have to be kind of separated. I mean, they have specific, when we were redoing that building, we had to set it up with specific entry needs and, you know, all the bells and whistles that they particularly need. So your option of it being an option outside of this size, you know, as an option, maybe to the back or something like that. Separate.
Yeah,
entrances,
we're gonna have to get with them and figure out where it would go, so it would
Yeah.
have to be most likely an option.
Any other discussion, commissioners? Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion before the court. Commissioner Mallett, seconded by Commissioner Walker. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned and the time is 10:29.
Good, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good to